Hello, everybody. I'm very honored to be here today for a number of reasons, one of which is it's been a day of good speeches and a whole week of good speeches, and we just had a great one there. And we're about to have an even greater one, I think, to come. I'm here formally to introduce Sister Corinne Florek as the recipient of OFN's fourth Ned Gramlich Lifetime Achievement Award for Responsible Finance. Sister Corinne is an Adrian Dominican, and she currently directs the Mercy Partnership Fund, where she's responsible for managing a $4.5 million fund. I wish it were a billion. And she does all the credit analysis, portfolio management, monitoring, and marketing. During her impressive career, Sister Corinne also has served as the coordinator for Justice Organizers, Leadership, and Treasurers, JOLT, which is a coalition of faith-based people who promote economic justice through education, action, and investment. Corinne has also served as the interim director and for many years the loan fund manager of Women's Initiative for Self-Employment, where I was honored to be on her loan committee. She has, early in her career, was the manager of Kentucky Hills Industries, which is a crafts cooperative. Let me get the right sheet here. She was also instrumental in creating the Mercy Investment Partnership, which is a collection of religious orders with pooled investments. In those positions, I think as a lot of us know, she's had and continues to have an enormous impact, a pivotal impact on many CDFIs throughout the country, including ours, Northern California Community Loan Fund. For Sister Corinne, working towards a just society is as simple as following the message of the Gospels. We recently were able to interview her for one of our newsletters, and I want to share with you some of her thoughts. Our society has lost its soul to risk and reward, Sister Corinne has said. If I risk this money, what will be my monetary return? But for those who have money, if you take your vocation seriously, you are obligated to give. She has an MBA from Notre Dame, and with that and 30 years of work dedicated to the social justice movement, Sister Corinne is a staunch advocate of putting assets into underserved communities. Again, she says, it's important to challenge corporations on their practices, to use money to create positive alternatives, jobs, daycare centers, credit unions, to show banks they can lend money into those communities and that they will get their money back. For OFN, selecting Sister Corinne for this award was a very, very easy decision because her entire career and indeed her entire life embodies the spirit of this award, named after Ned Gramlich. Our former OFN board member, Ned Gramlich, was a Federal Reserve governor from 1997 through 2005. In that role, he was an outspoken voice on the risks of predatory lending. He was a strong defender of the Community Reinvestment Act, and in fact, he led an effort to ensure that CRA remains strong. As Mark has told me, the spirit of this award is to recognize and celebrate a person who has, in her or his own individual way, bent the moral arc of the universe toward justice. Like Ned, Sister Corinne has lived a lifetime of service to the core purpose and core values that define opportunity finance. Like Ned, she has created an exemplary set of innovative collaborations that have brought new resources, both financial and human, into the field. And like Ned, there could be no more appropriate representative of the best of who we are than Sister Corinne. That's true especially right now, when the example of a person with the ability to navigate the world of finance and investments, guided by a firm moral compass, is so needed and so rare. I've had the privilege of working with Sister Corinne in several capacities, including that loan fund and also as one of her investees. As a result, I have come to respect and admire her analytic rigor, her absolute honesty, her humility, and her feet on the ground practical pragmatism in her approach to community development finance. This approach, of course, gets its real power from Corinne's deep spiritual calling to serve people in need. And this is a calling she shares with her sisters in all of the religious communities which have had such a broad impact on our work. This unique blend of intense practicality and encompassing spiritual commitment to our core mission is the very essence, it's the very meaning behind the work we do every day. I think we can say it's good work. Some would say it's God's work. It is most definitely Sister Corinne's work. It is my honor and my pleasure to introduce you to the fourth Ned Gramlich Lifetime Achievement Award for awardee for Responsible Finance, Sister Corinne Florek.
Oh my. I don't know that I have much to say. Everybody's been saying it all week. But I found a few things. First of all, I want to thank Mark and the board and the staff of OFN and anyone else who was involved in conferring this honor on me. I am honored, I am humbled, and I am very grateful. Once upon a time, it began with a mustard seed. I remember a number of years ago when I was working in Washington, I was interviewed by the National Catholic Reporter, and the reporter at that time said, "Now, sister, you're making very small loans. Do you think this is going to make any difference?" And I said, "You know, I don't know, but I believe in the mustard seed." I also believe in the core values of OFN. Justice and excellence. But there's a third value that is very important to me. It's called community. And it is with a number of communities that I stand before you today. And I want to take this moment to give the women religious who've been involved in community investing all these years some visibility. Because people often say you're invisible. But you know what? We're yeast. It's okay. But today's our day, so I'm going to embarrass all of them. I warned them, so they're prepared. I myself, as you heard, am a Dominican sister from Adrian, Michigan. Don't try to keep track. There are hundreds of congregations with lots of different names, unrelated, related, merged. Don't try to keep track. The Spirit is about diversity, and she went crazy when she created religious orders. So, here today, however, my own congregation, the Dominicans of Adrian, are about 800 women strong right now. And here today are 3 representatives from my congregation, as well as Laura Mack, who actually directs our own community investing program. So I'd like them to come on up. As you heard, I manage the Mercy Partnership Fund, and the Sisters of Mercy have gone through some major transformation and are now 4,000 strong in the United States. And I manage, they've done a unique thing. They actually have took their entire investment portfolio and made an asset allocation for community development. And so I want to ask the representatives from Mercy and my current boss, Susan Makos, who's the Director of Social Responsibility for Mercy Investment Services, to come on up. Now, mind you, these are just the sisters that are around the area who could make it to lunch. Now, there are 59,000 women religious in the U.S. I forgot to look up the number worldwide, but we are 59,000 strong in the United States. And most of those women are in small communities, 100, 200, 300 women. So think of it. I mean, think of that. These are small, little groups of women. That's why I say yeast is a very good metaphor for us. And today, I have representatives from a number of communities that participate in the Religious Communities Investment Fund, which I will talk about later. But I'd like to invite them up as well. There are the Sisters of the Presentation. Oh, don't be shy. Come on up. The Holy Name Sisters. The Holy Family Sisters. the Dominican Sisters of San Rafael, the Dominican Sisters of Mission San Jose, the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur, the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet, the Sisters of St. Francis of Redwood City, a Dominican sister from Spark Hill, New York, and a Franciscan sister from Philadelphia. This is who I am. We're humble women, that's enough. But you know, I was really committed to getting the sisters here because they don't get to see you very often. I tell them all your stories, I bring the pictures, I try to get them to feel inspired about what they're doing when we invest in you, but they don't get to see you. So I want to take this opportunity while they are up here, for those of you who received your first investment from a religious congregation of women, to stand. Okay, now those were the ones who got the first. All of you who have some money from a religious congregation or a faith-based investor, please stand. Okay, now you can go sit down. I just wanted you to see that. It's just so inspiring to see that. So, now that we've had a love fest, all of these women have congregations that are involved in community investing programs. And I want to give you some history and dispel some misperceptions. You know, in the late 60s, some of us remember, early 70s, there was a lot of unrest in this country. There was rioting in the streets. There were civil rights marches. Our own community is located in Michigan, and I was very aware. I was born in Detroit, and Detroit was burning, along with other cities around the country. We are protesting the war in Vietnam. And we sisters started to say, why? Why? We have been doing charitable work all these years. Why? At the same time, an earthquake shook the Catholic Church. It was called Vatican II. And no one took the changes recommended by Vatican II more seriously than we did. We changed drastically. We took to heart the call to look at our charism, to study the gospel, and to say, what does that mean for us today, in this day, in this time? We learned some new language like social justice and social sin. We learned about social analysis. At that same time, we began to face the reality that we were actually going to have numbers of sisters who would be retired, and we would have to care for them. And the debates were not easy at that time. There were those among our sisters who said, we are committed to the poor, give all our money away, don't save anything. And there were those who said, we have a responsibility for our older sisters who worked for $60 a month. We have a responsibility to care for them in their elder years. And I'm proud to say that we continued the dialogue till we found a third way. We found a way to do investing that included corporate responsibility, where we challenged the corporations we invest in to be good corporate citizens. And then we created what then was called alternative investing. We wanted to invest in alternatives to the stock market in those days. Now, many people say, oh, that's great, and I bet the bishops gave you all that money. Where does the money come from? We work for every penny. We are independent financially. Each one of us has a ministry where we not only fundraise for that ministry, we fundraise for our salaries, we fundraise for everything. You know those bingo games? Christmas cards, bake sales. That's where the money comes from. Our labor as teachers, nurses, lawyers, social workers, spiritual directors, operating retreat centers, and many other ministries. That's where the money comes from. It's our sweat. There's no magic pot. But the other piece of it to remember, and I used to say this when I was working at Women's Initiative, and of course I was earning the same salary as everybody. In justice, we felt that, we should get what everybody gets. And they would say, well, da-da-da-da-da. And I'd say, no, you have to understand, what I earn and what I live on are two very different things. Because we believe in common fund. We believe that what we earn is for the good of the whole. And we put it into a common fund. And from that fund, we care for our elderly, we pay for our leadership, we educate our new members, we maintain our mother houses, which is what we call our headquarters, and we support our ministries, as well as supporting ourselves. And it is a real testament to the power of collaboration, to the power of common fund, to the power of pooling resources. That's how we live. Each according to her ability, receives according to her need. The third piece is what compels us, what drives us. And it is the gospel, as Mary said. It is that gospel that keeps saying to us, struggle for justice. As people have quoted Mark, it's a long arc. But it's our faith that says we're in this for the long haul. I remember doing site visits, and young people would say to me, how do you keep it up? How do you not get burned? And I realized in talking to them, it's because I have a bigger vision that comes to me from my faith. I have a long vision, longer than 15 years for a strategic plan. Doesn't matter if it happens in my lifetime. What matters is that I participate in that struggle for justice. I could quote you Thomas Merton and some other people, but you get it. You get it. When we began doing this investing, there were no loan funds. I pre-exist you, oh my gosh. So when we started doing this, we looked at credit unions and food banks and daycare centers where our sisters were working. And we struggled to find projects that needed loan money. We had to do a lot of convincing of nonprofits. No, we're not looking to give you a grant. This is a funny story. I'm going to keep diverse. Anyway, when we first had our fund, we were not real clear. We were just trying to be open. And one of our sisters came and said, I've talked to the funeral director in town, and he needs a loan. Could your fund make a loan to him to help him in his business? Well, we sat there and we talked about it and we said, I think it's conflict of interest because if he's not making his revenue, we have to have somebody die. So there were a few challenges in the early days. Another funny story, we actually invested in a casket company and we kept kidding about, well, you know what the collateral is, we can use it. And then we had a program, and I asked this same funeral director to bring a casket so we could show people, these are the loans that didn't make it. And when he drove up in the hearse, the older sisters in the retirement center was like, "Who died? Who died?" So I had to go and explain that one. So, we made loan documents. We wanted it to look like a loan, act like a loan, walk like a duck, talk like a duck, to convince people we need this money back. This is not grant money. We have programs for that. This is a loan. We need this money back. Not only did we have to convince the projects, we had to convince our auditors, who said, "Oh, sister, you don't know what you're doing. Of course it's grant money. And we were like, "No, it's a loan. We're getting it back. By gum, we're getting it back." So after convincing everybody, we created our programs, and we learned by doing. We learned by doing. And at this moment, I really want to pay tribute to Chuck Mathai. I had the privilege and the challenge of living and working with Chuck. I worked at the Institute for Community Economics. For those who don't know, it was the first loan fund. And I'll never forget Chuck saying to me, "Well, just go out and hitchhike." I was like, "Chuck, you are a man doing that. I am a religious sister. I'm not getting on the highway with a thumb. No, no." So we had some of our differences. But, I went with Chuck to church basements and to living rooms to talk to people of wealth, to talk to religious communities about why a loan fund was a good idea and why they should get invested. He actually persuaded us to take a risk on loan funds. This was before loan loss reserves. This was before equity. This was before track record. And we invested anyway. We believed in the mustard seed. And we didn't stop there. We created a fund, we got some money allocated, we got it out there, and then we looked around and we said, "Oh, there are some communities who can't quite do it on their own. Okay, let's create funds so they can participate." And I want to acknowledge that here today are funds that were started for religious to help religious get into this even more. And they include the Leviticus Fund, Dave Rayner is here, Partners for the Common Good, the Florida Loan Fund, and I'm sure I missed somebody. But, they were really started to help more and more religious communities get involved in this. So we didn't stop with ourselves and just creating our own program. We kept looking at how we could do more. And then we didn't sit back. We started looking at our ministries. Now, this was dangerous because we found out we have hospitals who had investment programs. And so Pablo Bravo is here representing Catholic Healthcare West. And all the Catholic health systems actually have community investment programs because we pushed. We said, "We want you to have one too. We know how to do it. We want you to have one too." We tried to push our colleges too. We tried to push the bishops, and not so successful there. The latest collaborative venture is the Religious Communities Investment Fund. And it is a testament, again, to our desire to keep on keeping on. Because these are small communities who had a community investment program and said, "We're aging. We don't have the woman power to continue to do this, but we don't want to let this go. How do we keep it going?" So we created a collaborative ministry that I manage for them so that that money can continue to be on the streets with you all. So, we never stop. I remember in the old days, this is a little digression, but in the old days, Father so-and-so or Bishop so-and-so would call and say, "Hey, can you send me 2 nuns? I want to start a school. Hey, could you send me a couple nuns? We have a hospital here. I've got a community that really needs help. Can you send a couple women?" And we did. 2, 3, 4. And then we got to a point where we had to say, "You know what? We don't have the women to send, but we have our money. So let's put our money on mission. Let's get our money out there. Let's put it where we can't be. Let's put it out there." And that's where you come in, because you're vital to the success of this. You are our partners who are our eyes and our ears. You are our feet on the street when we can't walk anymore. You can continue to see and hear when we can't see and hear anymore. You can continue to reach out when we are unable to. You are our partners in mission, and we thank you because we cannot do it without you. Now, I'd like to just share 3 challenges, and they're challenges that I personally have to deal with. So I'm not saying it's a challenge for you all. It's a challenge for all of us. The first one, I've invested in a lot of you. And as I look at proposals and reports and things, one of the questions that crosses my mind is, are we becoming too expensive? What happened to that original promise of a 2% spread? Do we get caught up in pricing to risk? Or increasing our self-sufficiency ratio, and trying to sustain benefits and overhead that really are getting too expensive? Why am I getting loan requests from nonprofits because their local loan fund is too expensive for them? Each of us here really is a derivative. Our money comes from other folks' labor. Because think about where interest comes from. This is not some golden pot out there. This is people working hard so they can pay their rent, pay their mortgage, pay off your loan. Interest comes from them. I try to keep them in my consciousness every day because my salary, your benefits come from them. I try to keep them in focus when it's budget time. When you're talking about budget and you're talking about raises, we can get caught up in this culture. This is what this person is worth. Oh, come on, we are all worth a lot. Every one of us and every one of our borrowers is worth a lot. It's not about our worth. It's about what are we about in the bigger picture. And yes, I don't want you all to become poor. I'm not here to make us all poor. But I am here to say this is a matter of justice. We all need to remember where that salary comes from and make sure we're not making ourselves so expensive that we can't help the very people we were founded to help. My second challenge is the empowerment of women and people of color. I get a lot of proposals that say, our beneficiaries are 50% women, our beneficiaries are 60%, 70%, 90%. We want to help women because we know they really make a difference and they'll help the economic development, blah, blah, blah. Don't give me the marketing pitch, I get it. So then I say, okay, so how many women are on your board? Are you about empowering women and people of color, or are you about serving them? I thought this was an empowerment model. I don't deny anybody a loan because they don't have it, but I challenge you all. We deal with corporations and are pushing them all the time for diversity on their boards. I do not want to hear the excuse, there's nobody with the talent. No. We have to walk our talk internally as well as externally. You've been getting all kinds of great speeches about the external stuff. I'm here on the inside. We've got to walk our talk. And I'll be the first one to admit there are times I fall off my, I was involved in the women's liberation movement. There are times I fall off my lib. None of us are pure. I took a vow of celibacy, not purity. So if not us, who? To train, to recruit, and to keep women and people of color not just at a kitchen table, but at a board table. So I hope from now on I'm going to get proposals that show me at least that your board is reflecting the people who are your beneficiaries. And last, I want you to think about risk. Donna Gambrill did a great talk on it. I'm like, oh my God, there goes another part of my speech. There goes another part of my speech. But, you know, we sisters risked our retirement money to help those that we felt needed it more than we do. And I'm going to ask you to do no less. You know how to take risk responsibly. I want you to continue seeking those out who are on the edge. You are not surrogate banks. We are both here to create financial systems that are responsive to people of need. And sometimes that means doing things that are risky. Why am I still asking the question, why are people poor? That's all right, I've got a lifetime. We have to keep asking that question and keep looking for those edges. In the 60s, we used to say, it's not just a handout, it's a hand up. Today I'm saying, it's not just a handout, it's a hand up, and we're hanging on. We're forming a community. We like to say in the Religious Communities Investment Fund, we want to build an economy of solidarity where human beings are not consumers, they're not clients, they're not to be marketed to, and they're not to be trafficked for their labor. They're not to be trafficked for their sex. They are beings worthy of respect and dignity. And what we want to do is create an economy of solidarity where every person, every child in the future, every plant, every animal, every being, the whole earth is going to thrive. That's the long arc. So, I like to think that I have a few more years left to continue earning this Lifetime Up to Now Achievement Award. But nothing has been as fulfilling or as challenging as working in this ministry. I am constantly being challenged to say, why do I believe? What do I believe? How do I believe? How do I live? What my values are. And I'm always coming up short, but that's okay. We also believe in forgiveness. The point is to keep on. And I look forward to continue working with each of you on this journey called justice, because I believe in the mustard seed. Thank you.